Who is the Breath of the Dragon? What is the fate of Grace O'Connor? Chapter 1 left readers wanting more. Find out in the second chapter of the hit indie comic book that has a lot of people talking.
Hello again, everyone. My name is Phillip Russett, and I'm proud to bring you the second chapter of my ongoing series, Tradegy. I promise this will be a fun roller coaster ride, and I hope you join me on this fantastic journey. We also have variant covers by Tyler Kirkham, Al Garza, and Ryan Kincaid, as well as some amazing indie artists such as Peter Clinton, Len Danovich, Nick Justice, Kenny Calderon, Brad Voth, Steph Wilson, and more. Thanks for making my dream of bringing this story to your home a reality.
All right, so welcome to Comics Cast, guys. This is the third. I just had Philip in here just because, I'm sloppy, I guess. But anyway, welcome to the show, Phil. We're doing the third episode of The Process. It's a show I wanted to kind of bring on to start helping with our art fan community, people that want to make comics, want to get involved, want to be able to create, and trying to look for different ways to fix little elements of whatever it is that they're trying to learn. So we've had general art, we've had how to run Kickstarters. Well, it wasn't Kickstarter, it was Indiegogo mainly, but how to run campaigns. So I wanted to have you on just because you're a friend of mine and you're a friend of the show. So get you on here. You have a campaign going, which we just showed the video for the second installment of Tradegy. And the show today is going to be about how to build teams that are successful. This is your second book. You've been a fan of comics your whole life, and now you've done a lot of other things than just go from being a fan to making a book. So building those relationships, working and developing those teams, I think that's kind of where I want to dig in a little bit of your brain juices out, and then I'll throw it at everybody so maybe they can learn something. So hugely successful. Thank you for being on the show. Congratulations on the next book. It is over 85% funded, so doing well there. And I think you still have like more than 20 days left. So there's quite a bit of time for people to be able to support the book and get a good quality book on their shelves. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
I like your new setup. I don't know if you just changed it for this show or if it's your new thing or what's going on with it.
Change it up. It was too claustrophobic and it drives me crazy, and so I changed it up. Hey, Gerald, what's going on?
Yeah, I'll pop him in here. Boom. Yeah, Gerald said hi.
I'm sorry to
Congratulations
hear
on the
that.
book. Yeah, he's good. He's working with his family, taking care of family. So I'll be running the shop for the weekend, just on the shows and stuff. So he's been a huge help getting the Let It Out show tomorrow squared away. So appreciate his help. I'm gonna keep sharing this out, get it to more people. So funny thing is, we are actually just some shop talk. If you're on YouTube, make sure that you guys are following us there. Leave a comment, help out with the algorithm there. We're building that community up as quick as we can, and we just started on Twitch, so that's also another little platform we're on. So we're on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, and we are building our website up. So that'll be pretty cool to have actual reviews on comics, article reviews on our website. So that's the new next 50-meter target, so to say, the next thing as we keep building to that app. So. But this is about Phil, so I'm gonna get off my my rant about myself. So
You got a plug, man. You got a plug.
Yeah, yeah. You always say on your show, and you've always been great about everybody in the community. I think that's where we kind of might want to start. How did you go from being a fan of comics? Oh, by the way, this is an hour show, so we try to keep it moving pretty quick. How did you go from being a fan of comics, a reader of comics, to knowing you wanted to be involved with the community, to eventually making comics?
I mean, the short story of it is, I'm the kind of guy that if I don't like the way things are going, I don't complain about it. I just go do it the way I think it should be done.
Heck yeah.
So I jumped in with both feet and started with doing conventions and being a promoter, and then always had the dream of creating and writing. And I was in a position where I finally was afforded the most precious the word is eluding me, but anyway, commodity. There you go. And
Commodity,
it's time.
there it is.
So with that time, I started writing, and here we are.
How long have you known about this character? How long has
Mm.
it been kind of dancing around, no pun intended, in your head?
Yeah, wasn't it? I was sick in January, and I was in bed, and it just started. And
Yeah,
in 4 months, I had the first book in everybody's
that's
hands.
right.
So
Yeah. So this wasn't something that you've had kind of in your mind for a long time, kind of crawling at the back of your head trying to get out. Like you got sick from COVID. It was a really tough spot. And you got better, you fought it, but while you're in bed, you just started writing, huh?
yeah, I don't like to waste any time. I've just never been that kind of person. And as long as I had the strength I mean, I couldn't get up, I couldn't walk, I was on oxygen. It was rough. But you know what? I still have my mind, and I can move my
Yeah,
hand. So be productive, do something. Life is too short.
exactly, exactly. So let's go back to the bits earlier. All right, so you've made these connections before you even made your book because this is a relatively new book. I mean, it's funny, you're on the second chapter of your book already, and you just released the last one. Like that's almost unheard of in the indie community that you're producing products so quickly. Um, so I'm just going to go on I'm going off on a tangent here because I really want to go back in time, but I really want to know this. I think this is good for people that want to read your books. You know, one of the downfalls of the indie community is it does take a long time to get the books out.
Hmm.
You're able to really focus your team on being able to do that. How are you able to turn around books so quickly? And I understand before you even launch your campaigns, your books are pretty much done.
Right.
So how do you go about like getting your team organized to do that? Not everybody has the same schedule. Some people work. Like how do you get that to happen?
Well, I mean, I think you can relate to this, Joe. You kind of have to be a type A personality. You have to know what your vision is and where you want it to go. Because if you're wishy washy, you can't expect your team to have a direction. Now, artists obviously are the most valuable thing, and I'm not implying that as a writer and a publisher I'm more important, but I am the quarterback. I'm the one who's
Mhm.
setting the pace, telling what's needed and when it's needed by. And you have to know who you're employing, right? Like any other job, you're hiring these people, and you have to vet, and you have to know, are they responsible? Do they meet deadlines? Do they have the style of art that you want? Do they have egos? Egos get in the way, and it's
Mhm.
like any rock band. If you find a team that is not ego driven, everybody knows their role and what their part in it is, and they're content with that, and they just want to be part of a working machine, then things work smoothly, and you can get them out there. And if there is a snag, it still isn't too rough because you're working with people that are trying to help you resolve the situation as opposed to being part of the problem.
Right. And now you find these that it's not easy to find this out and you don't want to find it out while you're rolling through
Right.
product, right? So how do you vet those people? How are you making those connections? Because I think a lot of people just think, hey, I'm gonna get online, I'm gonna make a post that I want artists, and I'm gonna get a bunch of artists, and I'm gonna say, well, I will pay you, $20 a page. And then they're shocked because artists are like, I can't I'm working
Yeah.
$20 a page, right? Hello,
Look.
cat. Other side.
Trish.
She's
Oh,
on your
jeez.
opposite
She
side.
was trying to. She was trying to climb up on my lap. I was like, "Get out of here."
Yeah, nice.
um, this isn't going to be a popular answer, but this is just truth. And you know me, I will tell the truth. You have to show artists respect. They're trying to make a living off of this. And even if it's their side hustle, a sequential
Mhm.
page takes a lot of effort if you want talent. So it's real simple. Do you want a quality book, or do you want to just put something out there for the sake of putting it out there? And that's your choice, and that's you knowing what your direction is. But you get what you
Mhm.
pay for.
Right.
And if you want quality talent, then you're going to have to pay for quality talent. And to be honest with you, on the indie level, a lot of really talented artists are not that expensive. But if you're not financially ready to create a book, then you need to wait. And this idea of promising artists, look, when the Kickstarter funds, I'll pay you, you can't promise that. You don't know what the
Right.
Kickstarter is going to do, and print costs and Kickstarter's percentage. So you have to have your house in order before you start this. Now, granted, I did my book quickly, but I had my house in order just from my relationships and things like that beforehand. So vetting artists, first of all, obviously you want to see if their style matches what you're doing, but look at other projects they're on and what they're posting. Look at their information on their pages. Go to their other social medias to see where they are. If they have an art page and a private page, check both. talk to people that they're working with. Hey, you're working with so and so. How, may I ask, how's that going? Are they meeting deadlines? You may not always get the answer, but sometimes not getting an answer is giving you an answer.
Right. They're like, well,
Um,
sure.
it's a small
That's a heavy
community.
sure.
It's small. It's a small community, and reputations circulate fast. I
Right.
mean, if you don't do right, you will find out if you're looking, and it's not hard.
Yeah. So when you started looking though, what about editors? What about co-writers? Were you looking for anybody to co-write with you? Was it something that you knew you could write this and produce it and publish it?
I am again a type A personality. I don't work well with others with my creations, not because I can't take other opinions, but because at the end of the day, it's my project. And if you don't agree with me, I don't want any arguments. I don't want any bad feelings. I don't want anybody bitter because sadly, egos just get in the way a lot. So I'd rather just be the main writer, do it myself. Plus, it's my vision, and she's my baby. So I never wanted a co-writer, but I did want an editor because even though I can edit a book, when it's your own project, that's a different story.
Too close.
Yeah, and you have to be able to put your ego aside and say, look, I need fresh eyes on this because like even with dialogue, I know what the characters are, what's going on, so I'm not looking at it from a new reader. So I may not realize that didn't come across right, or that didn't convey my message properly to a third party. So I wanted an editor. I didn't. I know some big name editors that I just couldn't afford, or were just too busy.
Yeah.
And I went with an indie editor, and he's solid and good at what he does. But I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name, but a major editor and writer from Marvel is actually editing this book. So, but they didn't say to give them credit. They're doing it as a friend.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't go with the other editor. I moved forward because he's a major Marvel editor and writer. So it can, no disrespect to the other person, but it could just really help me.
Yeah, no doubt. And the first editor, by the way, he was on your first book, which is fine. It kept him busy, kept his name out there. So, I mean, sometimes you got to flex. Just for everyone who's watching, it's kind of funny because Phil and I have talked about working together in the past, and because we're both type A personalities, we just respectfully said we're not working together just because it won't work.
Yeah,
just out of respect for each other.
And that's the thing. I respect Joe, and I also respect that I know where your mind process is. You have to be. It's not that you need to control anybody else, but you just know what your vision is. You know what you want to do with it, and you're very clear on what you want. So why would you go with somebody else that may have a different vision? You want what you want. You know how you're going to get there, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm the same way, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Of course. Yeah. And I think that's one of the great things about, and we're kind of going into leadership a little bit here. Leadership and understanding how many captains need to be on the same ship, kind of leaving that alone. And I think we just have, metaphorically, we have two ships that are just kind of going off in the same direction, and we wave at each other every once in a while. So it's fun. I love seeing your stuff.
Yeah, we'll help each other no matter what.
You know what? Of course. Yeah, my wife is getting coffee, so I might get some of the coffee from her when she comes in. You might see a random hand come in with a cup of coffee.
Well, you see a random bear right now, so
yeah. Everyone needs to finance this book. He has kids to feed. Kids
to feed.
I mean, like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
And in all seriousness, you're in the military. There should be a chain of command just to keep organization, just to keep the machine working. Being the leader, a good leader can take the wisdom of others into consideration. Like, I'm not an artist. There are times where Ricardo comes back to me with a script and goes, I think this would work better. And he's right. And as a leader, I still also have to put my ego aside and say, you know what, for the betterment of my vision in the book, he's right. This is better.
Exactly. And that's going into not only building a team, understanding why a team matters. Understanding, like, leadership is not about, you're going to do everything I say. It's about understanding your you're using the strengths of the people on your team. You're going to figure out, identify the people on your team, and not push their weaknesses. There's no reason to push their weaknesses. You want to help develop them if they have
Right.
a weakness, but you're amplifying their strengths. That's the whole reason that you're there. This whole vision that you're talking about for me is just, it's a selfish vision, because I just want to be able to, in 4 or 5 years, get out of the military, retire, and just make comics for the rest of my life. And what I want to be able to do is have a venue for indie comics, indie creators from all over the world to be able to just do the same thing. I love the fact that you are producing product quickly. It is definitely a downfall
It's
in our
key.
community, but it is key to be able to not only keep your fan base, but to grow them, so they can get regular books and they can know where the story is going. So I'm very, very happy to see that the second book came out. I loved the first book. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
There was literally only like one thing as I was flipping through it, and I was like, this could have been better. But it was one of those things that was like, and I know it will be, you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking forward to the next book. And the only thing it was camera angles. I was like, man, I think we could
Absolutely.
have had some better camera angles. But
Absolutely.
it is one of those things. I think we've talked about this before, so I'm not throwing you under the bus or anything. I
No,
think,
no, no, no. You listen. What you're saying is absolutely true, and Ricardo and I have talked about it. Ricardo
Mhm.
played it safe because I mean I'm also his agent, and I think he was just nervous about giving me the best
Yeah,
book possible. That's all been changed. Camera angles are going to be fantastic in this,
yeah,
more dynamic in the action scenes. What you say is absolutely true, and for me to deny that would be me putting ego ahead,
yeah,
and I'm not.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And things just develop. I mean, the first Marvel book was a little rough. If you don't like King Kirby, then we'll fight. But, and I'm talking to people out there that watch this in the future, but you know, his books weren't always amazing. Like, they were a mess. Some of them were a mess, but now you look back and you're like, he developed and everything. So, now he's the king. But anyway, the point is, let's go back to how you developed the relationships in the first place. I mean, you've been a part of cons. You've seen people face to face. You've used the internet. Like, this is not a immediate process. You didn't just wake up
Yeah.
one day and were successful. So this is a slow burn. You created your name. You created a thing that when people say, "Oh, yeah, 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 I know who that is." So
I don't know if I'm
developing
that
that.
popular, but
Well, some of your rants have gotten you pretty popular. Oh my God. Phil,
well,
calm down. You're gonna hurt somebody or yourself.
no, those rants are to prevent me from hurting somebody.
Exactly, exactly. No, Phil is
Yes.
Phil's passionate like I am, everybody. When somebody does something wrong, he doesn't have any issue pointing it out because he thinks it's important to protect the community. And I have no issue with that whatsoever, just to clarify. He's
Yeah,
not
it's just when specific people are doing like really egregious things. I mean, you run
Yeah.
into people that don't have integrity all the time. I don't call them out. If I called out every person, I'd have a rant at least twice a week.
Uh, Phil's rant.
But
We can do a show.
yeah, that one was personal, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to get into that.
Yeah, no, of course.
So people, I don't know if people realize how long I've been part of the community. Now, I haven't been part of the business side of things per se, but for many years, as
Mhm.
you can see behind me, I've been an art collector. So I started getting to know a lot of artists, yes, through conventions, becoming friends with a lot of mainstream, quote unquote, big name artists. Um, and I just love art. I can't draw. My wife can. So yeah, I've come across Indiegogo. And Instagram was a great place where I started to find a lot of independent artists that I didn't know about. That
Okay.
I just they're so talented, but for whatever reason they haven't gotten their break yet. But they're every bit as talented as some of the mainstream artists. Um, and it was a hobby to continue to just find new artists to do my jam pieces behind me or get sketches from. So without realizing I was setting up the foundation of everything, I was networking and introducing myself to these artists through purchasing art and supporting their posts. And like Ricardo Silva, who does my book, it started with that. I just, I found him on Instagram and I was like, wow, this guy is really talented, and started following him and got some commissions. And then at some point, I reached out and said, hey, do you need an agent? And that's another story. But so Ricardo, through that process, when I was ready to do my book, I had already been repping him for several months, and I was like, you know what? I think his style will be perfect for my book because I like the tight '90s pencils, kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that his line work was solid. His sequentials are really good. Again, he's just getting better every comic book, and that's because Ricardo has no ego at all.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you now, and I'm not saying this because I'm his agent, because honestly, he's too busy to do any other work right now anyway, but he is really the epitome of what artists, a successful artist, will be. Edits are a part of the business. And if you're an artist that can't handle an edit, if you take it personal, like, oh, my work isn't good enough or they're insulting me, you're not going to go far.
Yeah.
Because you could be David Finch and still get an edit from DC or Marvel. That's just a fact. Because you're an artist trying to interpret someone else's vision in their head, and unless you have telepathy, there are going to be edits.
Yeah.
So,
of course. Yeah. So when you're editing him, though, like you've known him for a while, you've developed that relationship, and he works with you, so it's that's probably a fairly easy thing to do. What about people that are looking for new artists? What would you give them? What would be the things for them to look for, other than obviously the two main ones, right? They've got to have a style that works for their character, and let's not have them be jerks. Like what
well,
how would you develop them?
Well, obviously, deadline is important. Are they professional in their attitude? I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but if you see there are certain posts that if you see artists going on certain, writing certain things and not taking accountability for themselves or having a problem with more than one public, look, if you could have a problem with one or two people, but if everybody you're having a problem with, at some point they're not the problem.
Right.
Personality is key. I mean, it really is because a lot of artists want to draw and they don't want to have a 9 to 5 job, but they don't understand that it's still a profession. It's
Mm-hmm.
still an industry of business, and you have to be professional in how you conduct yourself. That doesn't just mean meeting deadlines. It doesn't just mean getting along with people. You have to have the skill set, but you also have to have the drive to really want to give the vision that the creator or the publisher wants and put your ego away. And those are really, really it. I mean, if they have the talent level that you want for your book, they have the sequential ability, they have the line work, meet deadlines, and have no ego, they have to take criticism. But at the same time, when you're giving it, be professional too. You have to
Right.
treat artists with respect. You have to remember that if an artist gives you something that you didn't want, they can't read your mind. If you had a different camera angle or something, understand that that's not them failing as an artist. It's they just can't read your mind. But also be open-minded to that artist that maybe it's a better idea. Maybe they have a better idea of the panel work or the camera angles. But it boils down to the nature of that. But also,
Mm-hmm.
I think more artists have to have business savvy. You are representing yourself as a contracted, hired worker. You represent you. That means you have to be a little smarter with money. You have to be smarter with how you conduct business yourself. There are publishers that will take advantage of artists, and then there are artists that will take advantage of publishers. You really have to understand the business. You can't just go, oh, I can draw, so I'm going to jump in. That doesn't mean anything. There
Right.
is a nuance to business that you have to learn.
Now, if these guys are, if you've got a one, well, it's funny because every indie writer fancies themselves a publisher, right? So
Right.
you write this thing, and then they're like, "Well, I'm going to be a publisher for my book, and I'll get all these artists and these editors, but then I'll put it on Kickstarter, and Kickstarter will essentially publish my book."
Right.
So where is that line drawn? Like you are clearly the publisher. You get these artists paid, you get the editors paid. Really, what you're looking at is shipping the books and being able to move into the next project. So these backers are backing your vision, but they're not paying for everything for you. Like you're definitely on top of things financially, which is phenomenal. And I think it's a good model that you tell a lot of people. Like you're not hidden about your point of view on that. Um, how do we help somebody who doesn't have the money and is really pushing towards that Indiegogo campaign to really jumpstart their comic series? Now, that might be the best way for them to be able to do that.
Again, this is going to be an unpopular answer, but if you don't have the money up front to make the book, or at least have 75% of that book taken care of before the campaign, you might want to wait. Indiegogo
Mhm.
and Kickstarter are not meant to pay artists and pay to make the book. It's meant to print and distribute to backers. It is kind of like its own little indie distribution deal based on
Mhm.
who you get to back. And it's evolved into a lot of people who, look, I get it. You really want to make a comic so bad, and you found a cool artist, and you think it's a great story, and you back, and that's wonderful. But at the end of the day, if you're promising an artist, oh, you'll get paid after the Kickstarter, or we'll start the book after, you're going to lose all your fans no matter what happens on the Kickstarter, because now they're waiting months for you to finish the book, months for you to print the book, months for you to deliver the
Mhm.
book. People don't have that kind of patience, especially in a medium where they can go get a book every month for Batman, every month for Superman. And now,
Right.
instead of every 3 months, you're asking them to trust you every, 8, 9 months? That's a bad business practice. I
Right.
mean, you can't, you shouldn't, in my opinion, you should not use crowdfunding to make your book. It's like if I wanted to open a store of any kind, a deli or a comic store, do I just have the money right away? Am I making money right away? No, I'm investing money. You have to
Mhm.
get a loan, get capital. You need capital to make that store set up the way you need it to be. So when the first customer walks in the door, they're impressed and they want to come back and spend money. It's the same thing with a comic and crowdfunding. You have to invest your capital. You have to invest in this book. It's your business. And you have to have it ready to go that when those people are ready to throw down their money, they're impressed and they have it and they're happy. Plus, people have short attention spans. There's so many
Right.
Kickstarters out there. There's thousands of Kickstarters out there. And you're going to take 8 months to give yours in. They've forgotten about you already. And they're moving on to the next one. And they don't even want to invest in you anymore. Look at Image. When they were late
Mhm.
on books, it destroyed them. And those were big names. We're not big names. You can afford to be 8 months late with a book? I don't think so. It's not meant for that. It's meant for covering printing costs. And look, if hopefully a little bit extra so you could throw towards the next issue, sure. But
Right.
that's you investing your capital into the business providing some dividends and a surplus that you can roll back into the business. That's business model. That's it.
Right. Now, how long have you been involved with this community? Now, we're talking indie community, deep dive. How long have you been involved that you've been able to develop these relationships?
I've been an art collector for over a decade,
Yeah.
more. But as far as like the business end, I started running my own shows in 2018. But if you think about it, starting running the show to get it together was 2017. So,
Yeah. How
so
did the shows go for you? I mean, as you started building those up, was it a pretty immediate success? Or how does that work developing a con? Because that's not part of this show, but I'm just interested. How does that work?
Obviously, it really depends on what your vision of what a convention is. I got tired of it. Look, I have nothing against pop culture, but I love art. I love artists being the stars. They shouldn't be sitting in Artist Alley making no money while Stephen Amell has got a line out the door. I don't.
Mhm.
That's not the show I wanted.
Yeah.
So, it's organization, finding the venue, it's getting insurance, it's doing floor plans, it's getting the talent in, figuring out what your budget is, figuring out what you need to charge at the door, what you need to charge vendors for the tables, how many people you can afford to comp, things like that. Um, I was fortunate to know a lot of big names that came to the first show. My first show was extremely successful for a first show. Second show tripled its attendance in 6 months. I had another show which was right before COVID, which was very successful, but then COVID hit, and that was it for a while. Um, but again, through that, you have to understand money. You have to understand what goes out, what comes in, what your budget is, and have a realistic vision of what things cost. You have to understand what things cost. You can't just say, "Oh, I like this, so I'm going to do it." No, well, okay, it's great that you like
Right.
it, but that's unless you're rich and this is just a hobby you could throw money at, you can't run a business like that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But before you did that, I mean, you were an art collector. You pulled most of your art collections from other cons. Like, how did that? Was it at cons that you met artists, or how was it communication you had with main industry people? Like, how did you make those connections? Was it through your collection or collecting
It was through
process?
collecting art, and face to face is always the best way. If you can do face to face, do it. Like, for example, as an art agent, if an artist is asking me if I can represent them, I will do a live video to talk to them face to face.
Mm-hmm.
You can read people better with that communication. I think it's more successful in understanding the other person because text and tone can all be misconstrued.
Right.
It's also, you can read a person's sincerity more in person than you can over text. And it's just a good business practice of respect. It's kind of old school, but I think it face to face is always the best way. So yeah, going to conventions, getting my jam pieces done, which really have to be done in person anyway because they're too expensive to ship.
Mm.
Allowed me to stop, talk to them, get to know them a little bit. I mean, look, the truth is, if you want people to invest in you, then you better damn well be investing in them.
Right.
It's a partnership in that respect.
Well, what about the newer creators? They're going to cons. Is the cons the best way to make those relationships face to face, or is it equally fine? Are there places on the internet that people should go to make these connections? Are there groups that you know of? I mean, other than the ones that we both share, But like, let's just say, you can't go to a con. What's the next best thing if you're in the Philippines and there's like one con a year, which is ignorant on my part, by the way. There's probably more than that, but I'm tracking there's like one big con a year there. So, yeah, what's our other options for these guys to reach out, find writers? Like, let's say they have an idea, they want to publish it, but they have no writing ability, they have no editing ability, artist ability, inker. Like, when you're forming those teams, where should people be looking?
Well, it's tough because it's easy to say social media, but we all know social media is blocking a lot of these small time business owners and things like that. They're burying you in the feed, so it's very difficult. The best thing for an independent artist to do, live drawing videos. Now, but understand you have to be patient. It's a process. It takes time. You're not going to get 300 viewers right away. It could be years that you're building, but besides doing live videos like that, engage in other people's posts and stuff like that. Don't just friend them and then start looking at their posts. Engage. Now, this is a lot of work, but when you do that, now they start to see you regularly. And like for you, example, Joe,
Hmm.
I don't remember who friended who. It was a long time ago,
Yeah, I
but
don't know.
the point is, I when I get friended or if I friend someone, I start to look at their posts and I started to see you draw and I liked what I saw. And then I heard you talking and I found out about you. You're in the
Hmm.
military. You have a family. Um, you're in Washington. You're doing Comics Cast. And I started to learn about you as a person and invested in you as a person. And then I think at one point you reached out to me about something and we talked about it. And I've been a fan ever since. But that goes back to that investing in people. If you invest in the superficial, it's going to stay there. If you invest in the
Exactly.
person, well, now you've built a relationship. And it doesn't have to be, oh, they're coming over my house this weekend or we're going to party this weekend. It could just,
Yeah.
like you and I, when we talk, we know each other.
Hmm.
There's an investment there. I'm wishing you and your family well. I kind of know what's going on in your life, and um, I'm invested in Joe Tolliver first and Comics Cast second.
Yeah.
And I think people forget that the human side of things. People want to root for the underdog. They want to root for people that they like. You could be the best artist in the world, but if you're a jerk, I don't want to give you my money. I worked too damn hard for that.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, you're talking more creators. So like you're saying it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And I think people just want to do whatever their business is. I've got a business, you've got a business, or you're on this side, you've got a business. Um, and what ends up happening is you almost want to hire somebody to do the social media work. But the bottom line is like you're saying, people invest in you. So they're not investing in your project; they're investing in you, especially in Kickstarter and all that sort of stuff. Then
They're
your
investing
name
in
is
both,
important.
but you come first.
Yeah. So it needs to be you that's on the front line, and I think a lot of people, what they want to do is a shortcut it. We'll put it on advertisement. We'll bust it out there. Everyone will see it, and all of a sudden, I'll be successful. And again, you have to put in the work. The work of producing the book is just as important as the work that you do to make those connections with
Actually, the
fans and new
marketing part of it
fans.
is even harder. And I want to make this clear too. You have to be sincere about it. When I
Yeah,
invest in other people, I genuinely care. I want to see everybody succeed. Look, I didn't have an easy life growing up, and I don't want anybody to feel the way I did. So
yeah,
when I invest in you, I promise you, I'm being sincere about it. You can't fake it. People will know if you're faking it, and also you won't have the energy to put into it if you're being fake
right.
because it's a lot. I mean, I get messages from people all the time looking for inspiration or, they're feeling down or this and that. And I invest a half hour, whatever they need just to talk to them and make them feel better because I don't want them to feel that way. And that's not me saying, look at me, pat me on the back. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, it's the relationships you build that will be taken with you throughout your life. I may stop writing a comic book tomorrow, and I may not be part of this business in 5 years, but I'm still going to know Joe Tolliver and see how you're doing.
Yeah, man. Same back. I mean, I I'm trying to find something that I can dig out of you that is outside of what I already know about you. So I learned something new. Um, tell me about the first time that you knew you wanted to be collecting art, that you were a fan of comic. No, let's go back. What was the first comic that you remember buying? And why did you pick up another one after that? And how old were you?
I was 9 years old. It was on a news rack in an Optimo, which in New York is just like a bodega candy store kind of thing. I
Uh-huh.
bought 2 issues: Uncanny X-Men 115 with Sauron in the back and Wolverine swiping at Colossus. And I thought that was the most amazing freaking, these characters are unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I also bought 126 where they're breaking out through the wall with Mutant
Yeah.
X, Proteus, which I have a shirt of and I wear it at all my conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just looked at them and I was like, oh, I didn't like reading as a kid. I hated reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up the books just for the art because I just wanted to look at the art. Oh, it's so pretty. But then I was like, all right, but I don't feel like I know anything about these characters other than they look cool. So I started to read them and I was amazed. So Cockrum and then Claremont and Byrne, that whole era was amazing to me. And then it just built into other comics. The funny thing is, I always loved original art, but I felt it was expensive. And I was like, I'm not going to spend that for someone to draw something that's crazy
Yeah.
until I understood the business. And then I understood why the prices are what they are. Now, don't get me wrong, some are still out of hand and some artists need to check themselves. But I
Right.
understand what goes into it and why it costs that. These people don't have medical plans and retirements and things like that. But so I collected comics, I mean, thousands. I have 65, 70 long boxes of comics,
Yeah.
I have Silver Age. I have almost the entire run of X-Men. And I've loved them. I don't really like what's going on now. Hence, like I told you before, when I don't like the way something's going, I do it myself the way I
Yeah.
think it should be done. That's why I wrote Tradegy. One of the reasons. So I collected comics for many, many years through all the different periods. And then when the 90s boom hit and like art was really like, wow, Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri and all that, I started saying, I'd love to have some original art, but man, it's so expensive. So, I saved money and started collecting art. And then I ran into someone named Troy Emmy, who runs a really great store at New York Comic Con. In its second year, it was out like 2007 and 2008. And he had what you call a jam piece. And it was basically someone does a layout of just a skeleton outline of whatever characters. And then you get a different artist to draw each character. And I thought that was just that. Wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Jason Metcalf, who did trading cards, and he does these team concepts. And I got the idea from, remember the Jim Lee trading cards?
Oh yeah.
And they had the team rosters, like
Mm-hmm.
the X-Men Gold, X-Men Blue, all that.
Yeah.
I wanted that style. So as you could see back there, I started to get them, and I would get Will Spatasio and all these guys. And I started talking to them, becoming friends with them. And look, it doesn't hurt that you're spending money on them. I mean, come on, you're spending money and supporting them while you're getting to know them. And then it was always, I run up to him at a con. Hey, Phil, what's going on? What you got for me this time? And we talk about the characters and we talk about family and you get to, and again, there you are investing. I got to know their family and this and that. And I had been collecting jam pieces ever since, but I've been collecting art since, I guess, for 2 decades now.
So
I mean,
now,
I have a lot of art.
so now, as an adult, in your prime indie game, as you're starting to kick it off, now people are going to start seeing you at cons. I think the indie community is starting to really get excited about seeing each other at cons. I think since COVID hit, I think it's a whole nother level of just this relationship that we've created with each other. I know I'll be at the Emerald City one, which will be exciting. I'm
Great
not holding
show.
a table or anything. I'm just going because I want to just meet everybody face to face. These people that I've met over the last 2 years, 3, 4 years, in some other communities. So now they're going to come see you, Phil. And where are the people going to see you on your next few cons that you're going to be a part of?
I'm going to be in New Jersey at the Garden State Comic Fest December 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I'm going to have 2 tables. One is under my repping agency, Legendary Illustrations. I'll have Chris Graves there and Model Zapata. And the other one is Tragedy.
Of course.
And Tragedy has been doing very well live. Like I did a comic book signing on Free Comic Book Day. And Free Comic Book Day, believe it or not, those are the people that come out for free books. So to sell is not easy. And I sold 60 issues in 4 hours.
I go to Free Comic Book Day and I check the comic stacks and I'm like, I don't really like any of these, but man, I am like ready for a cool comic. I will definitely turn my head to a cool comic. If it's anywhere in the vicinity, I will buy on Free Comic
And
Book
I
Day.
think that's
It's the
what's going
best
on.
cheat code.
I think what's going on is people are clamoring for something different or new, and
Yeah.
I want to, and just to preface this, different and new doesn't mean you can't look. There's only so many stories that you can tell really at some point. The
Mhm.
Bible is where most stories come from, believe it or not. About morality, good and evil and stuff. But look at what Jeff Johns did with Aquaman. You can take that character, write him in an interesting way. If you can write a character where people can relate, root for the character, see a little bit of themselves in that character, it doesn't matter if it's another urban street fighter in Manhattan or whatever. You're writing it different because now it's special to that person who's reading it. And I think the indie community gets that. We don't have corporate minds. It's not they're doing what they love as a passion, hoping that makes it. They're not writing for
Mhm.
the sake of what's going to grab you. They're writing what they love and are passionate about, and hopefully you jump on board. And I really think they're regurgitating crap out in Marvel and DC right now. I'm sorry, but they've killed the industry I love. Period. I'm just saying that. But there's an indie renaissance going on right now. The quality work is getting better.
Mhm.
But why is it getting better, guys? I'm going to tell you why. You're starting to invest money into this industry. You have to invest money into something for it to grow, to hire better talented artists and get better writers and editors to fix the writing. You have to be throwing money in. It has to have a circulating economy. And it's starting to do that. And that's when you're going to see the indie community build. Now, what the indie community needs is a strong distribution deal to come in
Yeah.
and get us out to as many people as possible.
That's
Joe
July.
Tolliver.
Launching the Comics Cast app for distribution in July. Just anyone's interested. But it's not about me, but
No, it is. Listen, what you're
yeah.
doing is monumentally big for people like me. It is huge. What you're doing is not just a wonderful thing for the community, it's needed.
Yeah.
It's needed. And if it's
Yeah.
done right and it's done well, it's going to be huge and it's going to be a game changer for guys like me. So, congrats to you on the
Thank you.
idea.
Thank you. It is in the works. It is happening. We put a date on the calendar, back planned it. The app will launch in July. That is the plan as of right now. Now, that being said, Phil, at some point, you will have to bring your great mind and everything else into the mix more than just somebody in the back burner throwing. I would love to have your comic, and I will say this live, and you can say no, go to hell, I don't care. I'm not asking you. I'm just saying that I think the community needs us to figure it out. We're just going to have to figure it out. I'm
Well,
just going
I'm
to
on
say that.
board, brother. I'm on
I'm just
board.
saying that.
I'm on board. I'm a believer in your personality, your drive, your
Yeah.
determination. But it's not just about drive. You could have a vision all you want. Is the
Mhm.
vision realistic, or is the execution there?
Right.
But I believe you're the type of person that the execution will be there. I believe that
Nice and
wholeheartedly.
slow and right. Patience. That's what I keep hearing about all the motivational success speakers lately. It's the word that keeps coming up is patience. Um,
It's funny though because people tell me be patient. I'm like, listen, I'm 49 years old. I've been doing this a while. I've been patient.
yeah, yeah,
But I do get a little impatient sometimes. I got to
yeah.
sit back and take a breath.
Well, it has to get done right. Like you said, it has to be right for everybody. And talking about getting it right to segue back into the comic and back with you. One of the things you said was passion is what's important in the community right now, and you have to be able to support the community to grow because we are in this renaissance. But passion is where I find everything. Passion and dedication and moral value are the things that really make real change. And right now, because DC and Marvel regrettably have been purchased by other companies, there's a corporate sort of box building method.
Yep.
Everything has to be thinged and promoted a certain way. And it's really kind of sad how they're using the community to push books. And it's really just a way of test running something before they go to the movies. And that's sad because guys like you and me, I'm 10 years older than 10 years younger than you are. But, we grew up we had the Hulk TV show on sci-fi. Like that was a big deal. And, that was like we had the 90s cartoon. Like that was what was the MCU for us. And that's what sort of developed that sort of love for all those sort of things. My point being is that we had comics growing up. I was kind of like you. I had issues with reading or didn't like reading. But then comics was what brought me to wanting to read. And I love the idea that you're making books. I love the idea where the indie community has passion projects that everybody can read. And we are doing naturally what the big names are saying they're doing. We are naturally bringing this
But
stuff to
we're
the
doing what
forefront.
they were doing. I mean, this Stan Lee was built on all of
Good point.
this.
Yeah, that was
I
fair.
mean, he was a business mind, but he wanted to give you a product that related to you. I mean, look at Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
What more relatable character is there out there than that? And then you look at Batman, you think, well, he's not relatable because he's rich. No, he's relatable because he's angry, because
Mm-hmm.
he's bitter, because he got cheated in life. And a lot of people feel that way. But he's also relatable because people want to feel that I am powerful, I am strong, I can beat a god, you know?
Yeah.
And those are relatable aspects. So there was a time where they had that vision, and like you said, it got corrupted. And thankfully, the indie community is not. It's fresh, it's new, it's not. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are elements of this community that I think need to be expunged, but that's another story. But for the
Well,
most part, this is a
yeah.
passion play.
Yeah, and as a community, we all have to get better. We all have to hold
Yeah.
ourselves accountable. We all have to communicate openly. We have to, and this is sort of my gimmick line, if you want to call it a gimmick line, is unite. And then at the end of the day, it's sort of one of those things that, the big industry is this massive behemoth. It's this Goliath, right? Um, and then we're all these small little pockets of our own fan bases.
Yeah. Well, there's little clicks. It's like high
5,000 here,
school.
6,000 here, 2,000 here, 1,000 there, 20,000, 30,000, 2,000, 500. If we all just stopped being bitter and fighting each other all the time and putting each other down, like really unite with each other, then
One of my
um,
sayings is don't be
it's
bitter, be better.
yeah, being better. And that's all that matters. Just be better. Like, and I love the one of my favorite sayings that a friend of mine came across and told me was to like, and this helps me not judge myself so harshly or not compare myself to somebody else, is that the only person you should compare yourself with is who you were yesterday. And if you
Yep.
can try to be better than who you were yesterday, then I think you're doing the right thing. It's just a little bit, even if it's just you did some exercise today or whatever, you know what I mean? it's important.
I agree. You know, and on this subject, maybe people won't like me saying this, but I see a trend too where indie artists, they'll solicit, hey, can I do a cover? Can I do a cover? They get paid to do the cover and they don't even promote the book at all. They just move on. They got their job, they left.
Yeah.
But I'll give Steph Wilson as an example. Okay, Steph Wilson, when you get a cover from him and you get his fan base, he sells. But then he promotes the hell out of your book. He even backs his book on your campaign to give you money back. He supports the project, which in turn gets him more work. Because if you're an artist and you get the cover, but you don't help the book succeed, you're not getting another cover. Do you want a one and done, or do you want repeat work? So artists need to support whatever projects they're on. They can't just take the money and run. If you want to see books thrive and get follow-up work, support the book, promote it, put it out there, and vice versa. If I'm a publisher and I have 14 covers, on this book, I give every one of them attention. Everyone, you don't bury anybody. Everybody gets attention. It's that give and take, symbiotic relationship. We build each other up together. Humans have this mindset that for me to succeed, I have to step on you to get higher. We could both build ladders and climb together. I mean, it doesn't have to be stepping on each other's necks. Why can't I, if one of us is doing a little better, why can't we reach back and grab the other guy and pull him up?
I'm actually on your page right now while you were talking. I'm gonna share this screen real quick so we can take a look at your campaign right now. Speaking of
Thank you, Dojo Kun Comics. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, let me get his comments on here. He had a good comment earlier. Just sometimes it's about just making better comics. Just make good comics.
Right.
Awesome. Yep, great. All right, so let's I'm gonna bring this up so we can see it. All right, you talk me through this thing. I'm gonna go to the top. We watched the video already. This is Tradegy chapter 2. And now let's tell me a little bit about the main character. What is her story? Where's she coming from, and where are we at? We're going to find her in the second book.
I don't know if I could tell you the answer to that second question because it ruins the ending to the first book.
Oh, no, yeah, good point. Yeah, don't do
that. Grace O'Connor, she was an Irish girl. Her father was the head of the Irish mafia in Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan. Now, you may ask why Hell's Kitchen sounds familiar. The Westies lived in Hell's Kitchen. They worked in Hell's Kitchen, and they were the Irish mafia in the 70s. Her father was a very kind man with her. Her mother is not in the picture. You'll find out later why. He raised her well. They had that time together. He was very loving. They would go to theater together. She discovered ballet. She became a ballerina. Her father was mysteriously murdered. His right-hand man and his best friend took over the business and adopted Grace, because him and his wife couldn't have children. Long story short, he's a sociopath. He trained her at the age of 17. She went away for 12 years and trained her to be an assassin, an elite fighter. She trained 10 years at a temple, an Asian temple, and then she trained for 2 years with a military strategist on combat and Western military style, like grapple fighting, MMA, wrestling, boxing, things like that, and firearm use. Grace is a very relatable character because she wakes up to a life that is just ripping her soul out. She just doesn't want this. Her life was taken from her. She thought she knew happiness. It's gone. How many of us wake up every day and just the thought of facing the job we hate or the life we have, we just want to curl back up in a ball? Our strength is not how many people we beat up, but the fact that we still get up and face that day every day. And this is Grace O'Connor. Her strength is not that she always wins the fight. It's that she gets up and faces it knowing that her heart's not in it or she may get her ass kicked. And believe me when I tell you, I get tired of bad guys always winning. Good guys always winning, because then the bad guy, how much of a hero are you when the bad guy is not a threat? I mean, He-Man is kind of a joke because Skeletor is a loser. Well, that's why we love Empire. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
I know. That's why we loved Empire Strikes Back. The bad guys kicked their ass, which only gave credibility to the heroes. Because if you're not tested, how do you know what you're made of? Well, Grace O'Connor is constantly tested in this book. And in the very first book, it's majorly tested. It ends in a very shocking surprise. It's a character study that I think a lot of people can relate to. She's guarded and scared and faces days where she's feeling like she's on top of the world, and then days where she feels like the world is just crapping all over her. I mean, who doesn't relate to that? And then I have Breath of the Dragon, who's an adversary who I'm really proud of this character. And I'm going to tell you this.
I love his character design. It is really freaking cool.
Thank you.
Really cool.
And I came up with all the designs, considering I can't draw, which is amazing. He has a power that I can't divulge because you'll find out in book 2 that I'm telling you has never been used in a book before. And if you find a character with that power prior to my book, I'll give you the book for free. Nice. I really believe that. I'm telling you, nobody's used this ability like this before, and I think it's really good. And you're gonna learn more about him. It's not just a linear urban crime story. There are metahumans in this world. There's magic and mysticism, and we go into ancient Chinese culture, and it's much more than that. And it all works. It makes sense. And I have the first 17 issues written.
The first 17. I feel like we've talked about that. That's good. Yeah. Number one. Well, first off,
challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. All right.
Read number 2. Find out what that ability is, and you find it for me.
All right. So do me a favor. Let's walk down your team because we talked about team building. Who are they, and what was the importance of the colorist to your team? Like, how important is a good colorist or a good letterer to the success of a book?
Okay, so Ricardo Silva does the pencils and inks, and inking himself is good because he knows his own style. If you were to hire a separate inker, you have to hire an inker that can accentuate and complement the artist without, one, taking over the artist's lines and or changing what's been drawn, and 2, where they really understand cross-hatching, line weights, etc., that accentuate what the artist is doing. That's extremely important. So if your penciler is also a very solid inker, that's even better because now he's a total package. He knows how to ink himself.
Right.
So Ricardo has that covered. Sigmund Torrey colored the first book. He did a wonderful job. Chris Sotomayor, who is a major Marvel DC colorist, he's up probably 60% of your collection, you don't even realize it, is coloring the book, and he's knocking it out of the park. Colorists are very important because they add nuance, add mood. They add a setting. Now, I love black and white art, but when you add a true colorist, the way they shade, the way they take the inker's light source and they accentuate that, the softness of a light, the harshness of a light, the softness of a background, knowing where to get your eye focused to. That's what a colorist does that you don't realize. Using specific colors directs your eye to what you want the reader to look at. And a professional colorist understands that. It's not just about coloring it realistic. Oh, this should be blue. This should be red. Where are you drawing the person's eye? And that's what a great colorist does with the use of the color palette. So a colorist is extremely important. But you're going to laugh at this. The most important person on the team is the letterer.
Yep. I'm not laughing. I know.
The letterer is that one guy that when he does it right, you don't notice a damn thing. When he or she does it wrong, it ruins the book.
Mm-hmm.
It ruins the book. Now, Jason Meadows is doing a great job on letters. There's something that I didn't know at first that I've learned. When you're drawing a book, because we read left to right, it's not the letterer's fault. If the artist draws the person who's speaking first, if they're drawn on the right side, now the letterer has a problem because now we're not going left to right. So, but the letterer is going to get the blame for that. But that's not the letterer's fault. He's doing what he can, because you can't be drawing tails all over the place. Now you're obscuring art and you're covering up art. Artists have to make sure there's enough room for word balloons in the panels, and they really should be putting the first speaker on the left side as much as possible.
Right.
And people don't realize there's a science to this.
Yeah.
But again, the letterer is going to get the blame if that doesn't happen. Now, if that doesn't happen, then you do what Jason Meadows did. Put the first balloon is going to be put higher, and then you go left to right from there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he was forced to do a few times. But again, this is a learning process, and as teams work together, they learn these things together. And Howard Mackey is actually reworking word balloons for me in both books to, with his experience. He's the creative ghostwriter in Blackheart, and he wrote for many years in Marvel and DC. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Yep.
So, and then, we have Chris Graves and my wife are listed as art direction. Now, you may wonder, what is art direction? Ricardo, Chris Graves actually roughed out some action panels for Ricardo for reference because I can't draw. And my wife helped with different camera angles and things. Like I have a page where Breath of the Dragon flips and he burns one guy without looking and he throws a sword through a guy's head and the guy's falling out of the panel on I guess like a 90-degree angle. My wife was coming up with that stuff. She's really talented. So everybody in my opinion deserves credit. By the way, I even comp books to my letterer. You have to take care of people.
Yeah.
So they get art direction, and that's a testament to Ricardo. He had no ego. He's like, this is great. This helps me get different ideas on how to do action scenes and camera angles, etc. Because he just wants the best book. And then Russ Cassidy has done all the graphics, trade dresses. He put the page together. He's also colored some covers, and he's been amazing. So, I mean, and then as far as editing is huge. Don't ever think you don't need an editor. We all need an editor. Editing isn't just, is the grammar correct? Is it spelled right? It's word balloon placement. It's, are backgrounds consistent? Are people's clothing consistent? Are facial hair consistent? Are the flow of the panels solid? Are they quality? Those are all things that editors do. Never underestimate the value of an editor, ever. So
give me some. Let's see. Okay, so we're coming down on some of the stretch goals. I'm very curious to see some of the covers that you've done.
Yeah, keep going down. That was a cross promo, by the way, with me and another Sam Vera who's doing the Forbidden.
Yeah, I recognize the Forbidden character there. That's good.
Yeah.
We
have to unlock that mask.
These are all the prints?
Yeah, the sticker is unlocked. I have to ask Russ to unlock that.
Okay.
Because he did the graphic.
So
we have mini prints. I love art. It's a lot of art. So
a lot of art, extra additional prints here, reward tiers. Let's see here. Good.
That's book one.
This piece here, it's just amazing.
Tyler Kirkham.
Absolutely amazing. Blew my mind. I got to get some. I'm gonna get some sketch covers from you. I think I need to figure out a way to do that.
Now, I just want to tell you, I don't like to milk people. I don't like the George Lucas way of doing things where you just sell the same product in a different package 50,000 times, make $1 million. Is that smart business? Yes. Do I think it's the right thing to do? No. So a lot of people were like, oh man, you have so many covers. You had 23 in the first one, 14 in the other, and they're all so great. I don't know what to pick. Okay, here's a book of covers. All the covers from book 1 and 2 are in this with this wraparound cover by Chris Graves.
Nice.
So you don't have to do that. You could buy one book and get all the covers. I'm not trying to milk anybody. You work hard for your money. Yeah. And I'm asking you to pay my book. Well, if you're investing in me, I'm investing in you. That's the main studio cover there with Breath of the Dragon. There's a set of both.
Well, this one here, this camera angle with that background, it seems to somebody who doesn't know, this is an incredibly hard angle. It's an incredibly hard what's the word I'm looking for?
It's a worm's eye view.
Composition.
Yeah, it's a worm's eye view composition.
Yeah, it's a worm's eye view, but the composition, be able to get her mask in there, you see it in movies all the time. It's sort of a thing that I think people just see a lot, so they think it's super easy. This is a very difficult angle to get and get all your elements in there. So that was an incredibly, I remember seeing that online, and I thought I was blown away by it. Really blown away. Great. This is your comic set, right? So you have an element in here where they can get both books.
Yes, that's it right there. Also, we have an element where you can get both books and the PD in PDF form, and you can get that and the book of covers in PDF. The three of them as PDFs only, if that's your thing.
Let's see here. What is the one thing? I mean, I can go all the way down here. You can just sort of explain as we go. Like, there's our Steph Wilson action, and he
Yeah.
did a cover in the first one as well, right?
Yes, and he's known to do TNA stuff, which is not my style. I'm just going to
Mhm.
tell you now, if you're looking for a sexy female protagonist, I'm not the book for you. Not against it. We all love women and their appearance, but for me, her strength is not in her beauty.
I mean,
It's
she is beautiful and she is in shape. She's
well,
a
you have to
killer.
be
She's a killer.
right.
Any hero is gonna any protagonist that's gonna go around whooping people's butt is gonna be in shape.
Right, but we
Uh,
don't accentuate boobs and all of that. But so
right.
Steph Wilson toned it down for me, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
There's Breath of the Dragon done by Idan. Beautiful colors.
Yeah, and this was traditional, wasn't it?
Yes, yes. He used Copic markers and then he used acrylic paint on top of it.
Oh, acrylic on top. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
it's amazing,
Technique.
right?
Yeah. Now, is that original art? Is he selling that himself, or is that
I
part of?
own it.
I
I own
forgot. You keep your stuff.
I own all original art. If you work with me, it's a must, and I pay for it. People don't understand. When you pay for a cover, you're
Yeah.
only paying for the commission, not the art. They own the art. I pay
So,
for both.
so I hear sometimes Phil brings some of this art to Comic Cons, and he does leave his table between the second and third hour.
The reason why I keep all the art is not because I think it's going to be big and I can turn around and sell it. It may sound corny to you, but I own all the art because this is my message and reminder to my daughters that um, if you really want something and you work hard, you can achieve it. And there's no excuse. The only excuses you have in life are what you put in front of you. Money is always tight and tough. You find a way. Time
Yeah.
is always short. You find a way. If you're not willing to sacrifice or bleed, then you don't want it bad enough. And that's the absolute truth. If you feel like a victim, all you'll ever be is a victim. If you feel empowered and look, it may take longer than I want, but I will get there, you get there. And I want my daughters to look at this art and remember that. And that's I will never sell the art. Sorry.
There was one other one. First off, that's empowering and that's important. I'm just gonna go and make sure that I address that you said that. That's cool, but I really wanted to make sure we got to this one. This one was
Al
the
Garza.
oh my gosh, Garza just a whole nother level.
Yes.
It seems simple, but again, that vision to be able to make that happen with
Right.
all these elements and make it work as a cover, brilliant. Just
And
brilliant.
this is the funny thing. Al is known for sexy pinups as well. He
Mhm.
usually does the cheesecake pinups or just a simple pinup, and he stepped up and did this. And Alex Sinclair is going to color it. Alex, unfortunately, was supposed to have a color ready, but Jim Lee threw a cover at him, and I'm not going to supersede Jim Lee, and I understand that. I understand my
Right.
pecking order. I understand where I am in the pecking order. So I
Yeah.
cannot wait to see Alex Sinclair's colors over that cover.
I can't believe you're getting Alex Sinclair to do that. That is sick. And it's absolutely the perfect. I'm going to go ahead and close this up. And then we are at our hour mark. We hit our hour mark.
Can I just answer Saeed one quick question?
Yeah, let's see. Which I was off of the off this page.
Yeah,
Which one?
what additional price would be considered to only art? Now, I'm just going to tell you now that really is up to the individual artist to know where they're at as far as the quality of the work, what their name is in the industry. Because I hate to say this, there is a truth to that. No one wants to spend the same money on an artist that they don't know as they could on David Finch because that's a return on their investment. That's just a fact. There's the credibility of I've got a David Finch piece, and then there's the resale value. Unfortunately, until you've built the name, you don't have that. So if you charge the same price as David, they're going to go to David, not you. That's just a fact, and I'm sorry to say that. But I do give fair. We do work out a fair price for owning the original art because you have to treat artists right. And I can't throw out numbers because everybody's different.
Exactly. Let me do one thing. I'm going to. All right, guys. I am putting it in the comment section right now. It is a Kickstarter campaign. Go ahead and jump on that. If you're on any one of our 3 platforms that we are broadcasting on, please feel free to leave at any time to go get it. This is a great book. I loved the first one. The second one's going to be fantastic.
Thank you.
And yeah, and I don't even remember what I purchased last time, but I got a whole lot of stuff. I
You,
might
you
have
got
just
the you
gotten a
got the
little
regular
froggy.
book, but you got 12 prints with it.
Oh yeah, I mean there was a lot of stuff that came. I was like, oh, this is awesome. But anyway, all right. So thank you for
Sorry, we went
that.
over.
Good show. Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, that is our show. That was our process show. It kind of delve a little bit more into your book, which is perfectly fine. It is exactly what I want to be able to do is have conversation. Hopefully, it answers some questions about building a team. Oh, good. Is there a way to get
Thank you
number
so
one?
much.
Yes.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a tier to get number 1 and number 2, PDF or physical copy, and every physical copy of whatever you buy also comes with the PDF of issue 2 anyway. So, and there's original art tiers on there from Chris Graves and Geraldo Borges, who's a Marvel DC artist. If you want to get a commission from them, there's tiers for that.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that. I wanted to make sure there was something of value you guys could take. I think there's a lot of shows as Meredith Finch once said, these are the interview shows, and I was like, well, we're doing more than interview shows, but that's okay. It doesn't hurt my ego too much. But I want to make sure there's value. I want value for the creators to be able to come on and hopefully get their name out there a little bit more, or to maybe just somebody that just didn't know who they were, and then you got a new fan, which is great. Saeed
Thank
is
you
now
so
backing
much.
your book, so thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Good work,
I
man.
know we got to go, and I know I kept you late. I'm sorry. I just want to
No,
say
you're
one
fine.
quick thing.
Yeah.
I sincerely appreciate everyone who backs. I don't care if it's a $5 donation, $6. It's not so much about the money as it is just the fact that if you read my story and enjoy it, and that I could give you something that you could maybe relate to and enjoy. I know a lot of people are lucky if they make $10 an hour, and I'm asking you to back a book for $10 or $15. For you to put that trust in me and invest in me means a lot to me. And I promise you, I really feel that it isn't in vain. I feel that the trust you put in me will be rewarded. I think you'll enjoy the book. I think you'll like where it goes, and I try to give you the best quality product. Even the card stock on the book is the highest because you may want to get the Tyler Kirkham CGC. You know, there's the cover collector and there's the reader. So I just want everyone to know. I mean, from Joe Tolliver, who put me on the show, to backers, to people who share all my posts. So many people in this community have rallied around me, and I've never felt this before. I've always had a rough, lonely life. So I just want to let you know, you guys make a big difference in my life, no matter what happens with the goal. Thank you so much to you guys, and thanks, Joe. I really appreciate the friendship and all you've done
Yeah,
to
brother.
support me.
Yeah.
And Gerald.
And that, yeah, I mean, Gerald's all over it. Rick's all
And
over
Rick.
it. The team
Yeah.
is great. We've had a great team over the years. People have come, people have gone, supported our vision to where we're going, which is fantastic. I love having you on. You guys, if you want to learn the game, you want to learn how to communicate with people, you want to learn how to build those teams. I mean, just keep up with Phil. I'm glad that there's a couple of people that are now backing the book or will back the book as they see this show in the future. You said that the trust won't be in vain. Now, you say you have 17 books that are already written.
Yes.
Do you think that you're going to be able to keep this pace up going forward, being able to push these books out and the speed that you're looking at now? And what could you use from the fans to make that happen if you need help?
I don't ever make promises I can't keep. So all I can promise you is that I have the determination, the motivation, and the desire to keep this pace. There are also uncontrollable things that happen, though, with shipping and printing. So it is my goal. This is going to sound kind of screwed up, but if you're one of those people that complains about, books are crap now, this and that, then I ask you, whether it's my book or somebody else's, take a leap of faith for $5. Forego your your Starbucks coffee this week or your McDonald's meal that it's wasted. There's no investment in it, and back a book, somebody's book, mine, anybody's, because you have to circulate money into this industry. And the other thing I was going to say is what we need is someone like Joe Tolliver with his distribution system that's coming. It's so important, Joe, what you're about to do, that I mean, on every level, on a moral level, on a need level, on a respect level, on a business level, what you have in store is huge. It's going to make a big difference in a lot of people's lives if you can execute it correctly. And I have all the trust that you will. And everybody needs to back guys like Joe who are only going to make our lives better. Work together, guys, not against each other.
I'm going to put you on the big screen, and I don't know if you've seen this show before, but we always close it out with the guests saying who they are, and you look at the camera and you say, and you've just been processed, and then we cut out of the show, okay?
Yeah, and I'll get it right out. The last one was hilarious.
It was rough. It was rough. All right, I'm out. Thanks, guys, for watching. I'll see you next week. Well, actually, I'll see you tomorrow because I will be running Let It Out. Oh, and by the way, if you watch Let It Out tomorrow, I will be purchasing 3 of the books and giving them away to viewers on live during the Let It Out show. So, that being said, I'm out. Peace. Be good.
I'm Phil Russett, and you've been processed.